Believe it or not, we're halfway through. I was a little bit hesitant to get to this point. When you very first start The Artist Way, it warns you rather intensely that a lot of people drop off before the 6-week mark, and the majority of folks that do drop off or give up do so at the halfway point because it gets really hard. Therefore, as the weeks have gone on, I've gotten a little bit more anxious on the approach of what to expect. But I felt like the first few weeks for me were a really slow creep. In the beginning, I didn't doubt the experience, but I was like, I'm not feeling a very strong sway. I'm not feeling highly impacted by this information. But I think, as I've said previously, that a lot of that is probably because I was familiar with some of the terms, and I don't know if you'd call it theology, pedagogy, that's probably it. But right around week 4, I started to feel it some more. I would say last week I was really starting to feel it at week 5, and week 6 is the most I have felt this experience has really changed me. I don't think that I drastically woke up the next day a very different person. It really was a slow creep. I also want to say that I think a large portion of this experience is not just to be accredited to the workbook. It is to be accredited to you who does the work. You have put forth this energy, hopefully, and you were always capable of it, and you've just slowly harnessed and accepted that more. And I'm starting to feel that. It was a part of me that I knew was there, kind of like a little fire, and I just wasn't giving it enough tinder. So week 6, halfway, this is called Recovering a Sense of Abundance. I'll start by saying that, first off, Julia Cameron wasn't kidding. It is a really hard week. Why is it hard? She probably hit at my number one weakest point, and that's finances. For a little bit of reference, before I started to read the chapter for week 6, I had literally just sat down on Sunday and done my bills. I had just gotten paid. I was reestablishing my budgeting, and I was literally thinking, God, I need to not spend money this week. I need to do my best to only buy necessities. And then I go ahead and I sit down and I read chapter 6, and I went, so much for that goal, which, to be quite honest, is what seems to happen every week. There's always something. The one time my partner and I tried to have a no spend month, we were less than a week in, and my dad passed. Anyone who knows anything about that can attest to funerals and just large life crises cost a lot of money. Things add up quickly. There's a lot of unexpected expenses. And it just seems to be the way that my life goes. There is always something around the corner, which I also mentioned last week. I have this sense of apprehension constantly. We're introduced again to the great creator. I'm going to skip quite a bit of that, but I do want to read from the gray highlight that specifies what this week is described as. This week, you tackle a major creative block: money. You are asked to really look at your own ideas around God, money, and creative abundance. The essays will explore the ways in which your attitude limits abundance and luxury in your current life. You will be introduced to counting, a blockbusting tool for clarity and right use of funds. This week may feel volatile. And I would definitely say that is the perfect word to describe it. Well, I've stated that the term and word, everything surrounding God, does not resonate with me. I have also talked about my feelings that there is this greater energy in the universe. It is constantly in cycle. And on that note, I do completely agree with Julia in her sentiments for this chapter, that you only get what you give. You have to spend money to make money. And especially in a literal physical means, you get what you put into things. This instance, it's your creative efforts, and you need to be physically, literally giving to the most art is physical in some way. So you need to be physically giving the things you need to make that art. Really an overarching idea that you can only reap what you sow. I also don't feel the need to read any of the other pages from that first section, because even my partner, when he went to read it on his own, immediately was like, I'm so turned off by the constant use of God. And I will say that this chapter was really heavy in that. I just feel that in the very introduction of this book, it was noted that you don't need to use that term. You can feel that it could be defined in a broad way. You know, this great creator, this great giving energy. And continuously Julia uses that word, so it does feel like there is some weight to it. However, I have a bit to share from the next section titled Luxury. All too often we become blocked and blame it on our lack of money. This is never an authentic block. The actual block is our feeling of constriction, our sense of powerlessness. Art requires us to empower ourselves with choice, and at the most basic level, this means choosing to do self-care. I think that, scratch that. I know from my own experience that there is a great deal of worth to the truth that you may feel restricted in what art you want to make and what you have access to. But I would not be an artist today if I had ever let that stop me. I did not grow up with very much. I was always the kid using the off-brand colored pencils and crayons and markers and glue sticks, getting teased at school. I was always jealously eyeing the kids who had the 64-pack name brand Crayola that had the built-in sharpener. But I don't know who told me very early on, and luckily it stuck, that it's not about the materials that you make your art with. And fortunately, when I was first coming up on the internet and social media, I did see a fair amount of artists, especially colored pencil drawers, who were proving the fact that yes, the difference between a Crayola colored pencil and a Prisma is there, but at the end of the day, it's your skill that's going to speak for itself. The majority of my art supplies have been some sort of free or discounted situation. I would say honestly, 70% of my art supplies have been a trade or something free. Because of that, I think it has bettered my art. I have learned to be creative in other ways, creative with what I have and to adapt. And I'm very grateful for that. But there also are the times where I don't make something because I tell myself I don't have the quality thing that I need to make it. And that's not a valid excuse. These days, more often than not, the reason that I don't do something because I don't have the product that I think that I need to create with is because I've received a formal art education and I have more knowledge about the quality of work for the sake of archiving it. I think that there's a value to that, but I also wouldn't even have an art education if I hadn't figured out ways to cut around the corners, because I paid myself to put myself through my degree, and it was no simple task. So if I wanted that so badly in that experience, why do I continuously disregard what I did all that for when I sit down to do a project? There's one more in the luxury section that I'd like to take note of. But for many blocked artists, it takes a little work to even imagine ourselves having luxury. Luxury is a learned practice for most of us. Block creatives are often the Cinderellas of the world, focused on others at the expense of ourselves. We may even be threatened by the idea of spoiling ourselves for once. I could list on one hand the amount of times I think that I've spoiled myself artistically. I do think that one thing I usually make more of a justification for is concerts. I have always found a validity in the value of spending my money on the experience of a concert. There is something so different to experiencing music live and with other like-minded people who enjoy the music, to hearing it right there in front of you. I also will happily pay money to go to a museum. But then that's also because I guess I've thought that the works at a museum, the things that I'm seeing, experiencing, being entertained by, have already been sort of appraised. This is a valued experience, it's recognized, it's worthy of my time and my money. But then the little things that add up, these things that we're currently dedicating time to each week for our artist dates, I make excuse after excuse for why it's just not worth the money. I'm currently going back and forth with the luxury of a chocolate festival this weekend. I'm the number one chocolate fan in the world. Why is it so hard for me to justify that? Because I also was raised in the situations that I have kind of a scarcity mindset, and I think, even if I have the money now, I probably won't have it for long, and, I can't be too frivolous. There's things that you kind of learn to account for as a small luxury. But the bigger luxuries are I don't buy more expensive paintbrushes. I don't buy any name brand paintbrush cleaner. I use Dawn dish soap. I'm a hoarder of any and all things that I can that I think maybe I'll create with. All of the paintings you see behind me, which are finally done. The others are drying off to the side, but these were all made with like recycled wood or reclaimed wood. Even the few luxuries that I've given myself, I cherish so deeply, and that's good. That's important and you should. But I like cling to them like a lifeline. Like I gave myself this one luxury once, and that's why I can't give myself others. So, as you may have seen coming, Julia Cameron asks us to address this, to confront it. And with that, she gives us the counting and exercise. For the next week, you'll be discovering how you spend your money. I already kept a budget, so I was already kind of well aware. And like I said, coincidentally, I was doing it right before this chapter. Buy a small pocket notepad and write down every nickel you spend. It doesn't matter what it's for, how tiny the purchase, how petty the amount. Petty cash is still cash. That part was a little difficult for me because I kind of get triggered in like the odd way that I'm like scared to spend money and to not have any. I also have a really hard time constantly watching it because it just keeps me in a constant state of anxiety. So my logic to this was to just be very intentional about what I did purchase and keep note of, okay, I bought this on this day and it was about this much. Each day, date a page and count what you bought, what you spent, where your money went, whether it was for groceries, lunch in a diner, a cab ride, subway fares, or a loan to your brother. Be meticulous, be thorough, and be non-judgmental. This is an exercise in self-observation, not self-flagellation. I didn't go as deeply into this because it's something I already do and I knew my boundaries. You may want to continue this practice a full month or longer. It'll teach you what you value in terms of your spending. Often, our spending differs from our real values. We fritter away cash on things we don't cherish and deny ourselves those things we do. For many of us, counting is a necessary prelude to learning creative luxury. In a similar way to how I noted that in 2025, I had already set this New Year's resolution for myself to be more optimistic, think of the glass half full, to release what rage did not do me good. I had done another resolution the year prior, which was to reconsider the ways in which I spend my money. This was because of the upcoming election, and I didn't want to be giving money when I didn't need to companies or businesses or the current administration that I did not believe in. And so I asked myself to be really honest with how often was I impulse shopping. And I will say over the last probably now like 18 months, the way that I buy has changed drastically. And my main goal most of the time is to save money on the things I don't really want. I just maybe thought about in the minute or felt kind of swayed for the things I know that I want, that I have waited for and yearned for, the things that sit in my wish list, on my Pinterest board, in my shopping cart, the trips I want to go on. Whenever I'm at a store and I'm like, oh, this is really cute, I kind of want this. Do I want it more than this goal, this luxury that I've been setting for myself? There is, however, one more exercise. This one is called Money Madness. You complete the following phrases, and there are 20, like many of the ones before. For the sake of today's video, I'll fill in the blanks with my answers. Number 1, people with money are privileged. Number 2, money makes people greedy. Number 3, I'd have more money if I had generational wealth. Number 4, my dad thought money was evil. Number 5, my mom always thought money would fix everything. Number 6, in my family, money caused a lot of fighting. Number 7, money equals happiness, ease. Number 8, if I had money, I'd invest, spend, and donate. Number 9, if I could afford it, I'd go on a big trip immediately. Like if I had the money, the first thing I would do is travel. Halfway. At 11, I'm afraid that if I had money, I would be too frivolous. I don't imagine a world where I ever, even if I was Jeff Bezos and I had all the money in the world, I was a billionaire to a disgusting amount of wealth that you could never even spend, I still don't think I would ever feel at ease. But I am afraid that if I had money, I would become out of touch still with what the reality of the different classes are. Number 12, money is power. 13, money causes wars. 14, having money is not the only answer. 15, in order to have more money, I'd need to work harder. 16, when I have money, I usually spend it. 17, I think money makes the world go round, unfortunately. If we want to talk about the patriarchy, capitalism, consumerism, that's a whole other video. 18, if I weren't so cheap, I'd buy nicer groceries. 19, people think money solves everything. Number 20, being broke tells me that you and I are gonna get along just fine. I have learned in my life, and it was the way that I knew when I first met my partner of now almost 7 years, that he and I just saw and understood each other. The very first date we had, we talked for hours, and we just like really leaned into and related with one another and our financial experiences growing up and our families, even though our families are like so complete opposites. We'd had such a similar Midwest and financial upbringing that I just have never met someone who saw me and understood me in a way that he does. And almost all of my friends have in some way understood the financial struggles that I grew up with. I think that has been a defining factor for the relationships I have. I feel so much more comfortable around people who have known how to do more with less than folks who were inherently given more to start with. This week was pretty short. It was a heavy topic, and maybe that's why. So we're already on to the tasks. The first one was natural abundance, and it's to find 5 pretty or interesting rocks. I had no problem with that. My apartment has like a ton of rocks outside, and I look at them almost every day when I'm kicking them, thinking how nice they are. Number 2, another natural abundance. Pick 5 flowers or leaves. You may want to press these between wax paper and save them in a book. This felt like perfectly timed. Talk about synchronicity. I decided not to cut them, but over the course of this last week, every day there were these rose bushes in front of my apartment, and they've been blooming more and more and more. It makes me so happy. I even wrote about it in my morning pages, to walk past them on my way to work and to walk past them on my way home or whenever I'm going somewhere. But if I'm like kind of dreading to go do a chore or an errand or go to work and I walk past them, it just changes my mood immediately. But I didn't want to cut them because I wanted them to bloom on the bush. And I feel so lucky that they're on the bushes in front of my apartment because there's none in the rest of the complex. 3, clearing. Throw out or give away 5 ratty pieces of clothing. I don't know how many more chapters of her telling me to clear out my closet I can take. I'm running out of stuff. I did take more things to Goodwill, and I did go to Buffalo Exchange finally this week, and it was worth it. I'm so glad I traded in the things that I did. I'm so happy with the new things I got. I was really looking for new stuff. I really wanted to make a change. So I will approve this message. 4, creation. Bake something. If you have a sugar problem, make a fruit salad. Creativity does not have to involve capital A art. Very often the act of cooking something can help you cook something up in another creative mode. I just made cinnamon rolls. Number 5 is communication. Send postcards to 5 of your friends. So I made these, and they will go in the mail right after this video. It says that this is not a goody two-shoes exercise. Genuinely send cards and greetings to 5 friends who would love to hear from you. 6, list your favorites in the following categories. 1 was cars. I don't know anything about cars. 2 was dogs. I love all dogs. I love all dogs. Let me get that straight. But I do really love corgis and borzois. Number 3 is flowers, and I would say roses. Number 4 is trees. I don't know shit about trees, but maybe wisteria. I like the dripping, sad, large, droopy trees. No, that's not a wisteria. A weeping willow. Number 5 is fruits. I love strawberries. I love fruits in general. I really love fruits, but I love strawberries the most. Number 6, vegetables. I would just say sweet potatoes. 7 is desserts. Anything chocolate. 8 is entrees. Anything chicken. Number 9, musical groups. I thought it was fascinating. She said musical groups and not just musicians, because it has to be like a band then. It's not like a singular person. Been listening to a lot of Spill Tab, Balu Brigade, and Men I Trust, the Marias, so on and so forth. Number 10 is colors. Everyone hates this answer. My favorite color is gray. My favorite color has been gray since I was like 14. I love a good purple. I do have a penchant for purple, but I like gray because it's calm. It's so calm to me. It's like a dolphin and it's smooth. I love a gray rainy day. It seems like the lamest thing I could possibly say, and like I'm riding the line between black and white, and I'm being a devil's advocate who can't pick one, but I love gray. 7, reread the basic principles. You're supposed to be doing this daily. I don't do it daily. I think I've already established them. But I do reread each chapter more than once during the week, because I do it the first time when I read it on Sundays. Then I do it again when I'm kind of going through to do some of the exercises. And then I always do it a third time at least before the end of the week when I'm recapping to prepare for these videos. And it's part of the reason I'm really grateful that I chose to do these, because I do think it's been beneficial for me to reread the chapters and spend more time with each of them. 8, clearing. Any new changes in your home environment? Make some. I think we've like put up and hung up some of the last of our stuff in the apartment. There really isn't anything left to unpack, thank God. Number 9, acceptance. Any new flow in your life? Practice saying yes to freebies. I would say the new flow is I've been looking at a new job, and whether or not I get it, I have felt a great deal of change in myself and my confidence through this experience. Number 10, prosperity. Any change in your financial situation or your perspective on it. Any new, even crazy ideas about what you would love doing. It's more so that I'm anxious about money, that I still don't have enough. And it comes and goes in waves where sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'm doing so well. And then I take advantage of that, and then I'm not doing so well. For the final check-in, how many days this week did you do your morning pages? Have you used them yet to think about creative luxury for yourself? And how is the experience for you? I've been doing them every morning. And at this point, I would say that they actually have made a great impact for me. I still don't really use them to write anything that I would consider creative in and of itself, but it's been very beneficial after this much time to just work through my thoughts so that I feel freed up to then start my projects. I've gotten in the habits of, once I've like done my type A, my logic needed things, and I know that I have made and prioritized time to shift gears, I then go and I intentionally sit down and I do my pages. This last week, I wrote the introduction for an essay that I've been meaning to write about these paintings because of my morning pages. And I was so giddy for the rest of the day. I haven't enjoyed writing like that in a really long time, and that felt really invigorating. I've also noticed that I tend to talk about I feel or I'm feeling and just feelings in general a lot in my morning pages. And after 6 weeks, I realized that if that's what's coming up a lot, then it was important that I needed to be addressing it. I still, halfway through, don't feel that there's the feel. I still think halfway through this experience that I don't necessarily want to do morning pages every day, but I do see the difference when I do them and want to be intentional about making time to sit and clear my mind more often. Did you do your artist date this week? Have you considered allowing yourself to? What did you do and how did it feel? This last week, I didn't do my artist date alone. I know that's like kind of the point of it, but I found myself a lot on my artist dates thinking, wow, this is fun. It'd be more fun if it was with people I enjoy. So this last week I spent my artist date with my partner, but we still throughout the day like split up and did things separately. So I went thrifting for a bit while he went and looked at a comic book shop, and then we came back together and we got lunch together. And then at another point we made time to go play basketball, which I've been wanting to do and I could do on my own, but I thought would be more fun with him. And I do think that it was more fun with someone else. I think because I'm already such an independent person that I spend so many little divots of time by myself that for me, making time to be with others is something I need to be more intentional about and I find more fulfilling. Did you experience any synchronicity this week? What was it? I had so many I couldn't even begin to list them all, and I did, as it was noted in a previous check-in, start pointing them out to my friends. I think at this point I'm noticing synchronicity like almost daily. The biggest one I would accredit is interviewing and working through the process of this job. I am so nervous to like speak it into the universe because while manifesting is important, I am so scared to get ahead of myself and then be disappointed. But the experience itself has been very rewarding to acknowledge and like validate, first off, what I sought out to go for an art career for in the first place, but also to know that other people like see me and my creative musings and my thought process and think like I'm not just like out here throwing crap at a wall. It's been really reassuring when I have had such awful imposter syndrome for the longest time. Lastly, were there any other issues this week that you can consider significant for your recovery? Describe them. I actually think, all things considered, I had a pretty good week. And I'm going into week 7 feeling really optimistic, feeling really empowered. I think the biggest thing that I can say about this week actually was not like a road bump. It wasn't something bad, but I finished these paintings, which consisted of nearly 2 full days of just sitting and working on them. And now here's one of them down here. They're just drying. And in a month, I can finally varnish them. These are paintings that I started 2 years ago. And I wasn't ready to finish them then. I actually redid like 2 of them. I went back and touched up some others, and it finally all came together. I don't know if that's to be accredited to doing the workbook, but I certainly think it's because I've just been committing more of myself and my time to being creative. And with that comes the flow. That has been very significant and very rewarding for me. If you stuck with for this long, for 6 weeks or just 6 videos, whatever way you've been a part of this, thank you so much. I have found myself getting more confident with each video. I have been getting better at editing in general. I'm finding myself feeling better about sharing my artwork altogether, aside from just making more artwork. I have figured out like what I want my content and what I want more of my message to look like. And that takes a lot of trial and error. I know that this is only halfway through, so there's just so much more to go in this project, this workbook alone, and then beyond. And I'm very appreciative for everyone who has watched. If you've taken time to comment or like, that is also wonderful. I would appreciate any feedback, whether it's your opinion of my experience or your own experience. I'm really open because I don't have all the answers, but I'd like to have the conversations. I think that's the only way to figure things out, is to talk through or work through them, whether that be physical or verbal. And I'm really looking forward actually to finishing the rest of this workbook. So far, what kind of seemed daunting, while I don't want to like race to the finish now, I'm like enthusiastic to see how much further I can still go. And that's kind of a mentality I've been adapting about life in general, so this has been really great at cementing that. I just turned 26 a few months ago, and on my birthday, everyone at my work at the time asked me how I felt. Did I feel like I was getting older? Did it feel daunting? And I said, no, it feels really good. Like when I was younger, at the beginning of my 20s, turning older seemed scary. And now as each year comes, it feels better, and I look forward to the next because I can look back, see how much I grew in just 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. And I think, wow, that's going to be incredible 1 year, 2 year, 5 years from now. The person that I'll be, the version of myself, I look forward to becoming. I'm not rushing to become that person, but I look forward to it. And this experience has had a similar sentiment for me. I am looking forward to what the next 6 weeks hold, and overall implementing more of the techniques, because I'm trying to get out of my creative practice what I put into it, and I am really looking forward to the art I will make because of the art I have made now. You know, just make it and you can make it better later. Anyways, thank you so much if you've been watching for the last few weeks, and even if it was just this video.